This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by trainer manager Carl Greaves over Zoom. Carl, firstly, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Andy, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Happy New Year. Hope you had a good one. Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, well, I had COVID before Christmas, so quite bad as well. But I got over that, and I managed to get away to Las Palomas in Gran Canaria for New Year, which was nice. But yeah, I did have COVID a week before Christmas, which wasn't very nice.
Well, Carl, obviously, I hope that you've not just made a full recovery now, but you're back on your feet, back into the swing of things in the boxing world. Early days yet, with no boxing this month, but how are things looking in the gym?
Yeah, well, I'm back tomorrow with the lads in the gym. First time this year. They've all been ticking over themselves, ready for when I get back. I've got my other trainer in there, Adam Kettleborough, so he's been keeping them at it. But yeah, I'm back at it tomorrow. So all systems go, ready for a big year, hopefully.
Hopefully, it will be for yourself and the team, Carl. Starting point, David Avanesyan.
Yeah.
What's the latest with David, Carl?
Yeah, he's on a big show in March. I can't announce what show it is yet. Obviously, he's got to go through the right process. But yeah, he's on a big show in March, defending his European title. Obviously, he's got a final eliminator against Virgil Ortiz, was put out by the WBC. As you see, Virgil Ortiz has got a different route. So we're just going to see what happens now and see who they're going to order for David in a final eliminator for the WBC title.
That was what I was going to ask about. You know, we saw the WBC order the bout between David and Virgil. Why did that just not go ahead? Was you surprised to see Virgil go down another route, or what was everything behind that?
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, obviously Neil went out to Mexico. I mean, he wanted that fight. He put it out there to the WBC. They agreed with what he was saying and they ordered the fight. So it was all set for the final him against Virgil Ortiz, but it's not going to happen now. Virgil's decided to go a different route. But either way, we're in a great position with David. He's still going to get his chance. I mean, who against, we're not sure yet. So in the meantime, I'm going to defend the European title.
What did you make of the Ortiz-Mckinson announcement fight, Carl? What do you make of that as a fight?
Yeah, a bit of a shock, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, Virgil Ortiz obviously didn't fancy David, in my opinion. He's looked at David and it's a risky fight for him, so he's tried a different route. Obviously, in his eyes, he's looked at a different route, easier route in McKinson, and let's see what happens. It's a very interesting fight. But I mean, you've got to favour Virgil Ortiz. He's a big puncher. He's a strong fighter. Let's be honest, McKinson hasn't really been in anyone near that level. So yeah, it's going to be a tough night for McKinson. But listen, I wish him well. I know his dad very well, Michael Ballingle, and I really hope he does well and can pull it off. But it is a huge task.
Whoever is successful in that fight, Carl, would you guys revisit it as a potential bout for David?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the WBO route. I mean, we're looking at the green and gold belt, the WBC, but any of them fights are big fights. I mean, David's highly ranked across the board in all the world organisation governing bodies, so we're in a good position with David. I mean, Neil went out there and he wants him to go the WBC route, which is what we want, really. I mean, what a fantastic title to win. But we'll see. I mean, it's all interesting. Whichever route you go at that level, they're all tough fights. The top 3 or 4 in the welterweight division are all red-hot fighters. So it's going to be an hard fight whichever route you go. But David will fight anybody, as you've seen before. He's flying high at the minute. He's on a roll and he's ready to take whoever gets put in front of him.
I mean, the WBC title list currently is Errol Spence Jr. We're getting ready to see himself and your Dennis Ugas face off this year. What's your thoughts on that when that one's officially announced and there's something set in place for a date and an area, location that is for it to go down? What are your thoughts on Spence Ugas?
Yeah, that was a bit of a shock when that got announced. I actually saw it on Ugas's Twitter. That come out of the blue, really. But listen, there's 3 bouts on the line. and we're on the road to get an undisputed welterweight champion. I mean, somebody's going to have 4 bouts, hopefully. You never know. I mean, is it going to happen? We don't know what's happening with Crawford now. I mean, he's left Top Rank, so we don't know what route he's going to be taking. Is he going to stay at welterweight? I don't know. It's all, like you say, it's interesting. But the Ugas fight, I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. Ugas is a good fighter. He's on a roll at the minute. He's boxing well. He's a confident fighter. He's got a good pedigree behind him, good amateur. And Spence isn't very active. Obviously had that bad accident. So it's interesting to see. But, I mean, the winner of them would be fantastic for David. We would like the Ugas fight. We always wanted that fight. But the winner of that will be a great opportunity and a good name for David. And listen, I put David in with them any day of the week.
I mean, just with Ugas, David's not the only one who's been mentioned for that fight. We know Eddie spoke about Conor Benn maybe one day facing him. Josh Taylor has had Ugas put to him if he was to move up to 147, which we expect to see beyond Jack Catterall. Why is it that people seem to be targeting him? Is it as simple as what people suggest out of the champions? He isn't the strongest?
Well, I presume out of the champions he's not the strongest one on paper, but he's a good fighter. He's got good pedigree. He's a good boxer. He's tall. He's awkward. He's got a good range, good technique, and he can punch a bit. So, listen, I think people's overlooking Ugas, thinking he's an easier option, but I rate him. I think he's a good fighter.
Away from that, as I mentioned there, Conor Benn, I'm sure is somebody you're probably fed up of talking about now, Carl. But just because we haven't had a chance to catch up over the last couple of months, let's get your thoughts. We saw Frank Warren say he'd be happy to make that fight and pay for David's purse and to box on the zone. What were your thoughts when you heard that? And did you expect it to lead anywhere?
I don't think it's going anywhere because the bottom line is Conor Benn, Eddie Hearn, Tony Sims, they just don't want the fight. They can come out with all the excuses in the world. They can go around the houses and say this, say that. But let's be honest, they don't want the fight. I'd rather them be straight about it. I mean, Eddie did say that he didn't think Conor was ready for David. And then his last interview, he said that he thinks Conor beats David. So it's all confusing to me. But we're very confident. We always have been very confident. I think David beats Conor pretty easily. And I think they know that as well. I'd rather them be honest and just say that instead of obviously saying that David's not a big enough name. He wouldn't attract the crowd and it wouldn't sell. I mean, let's be honest, it's a big fight. Everybody's talking about that fight. Everybody wants to see that fight. It would draw 20,000 in the O2, no problem, in my opinion. But obviously, they don't want to go that route. They don't want a young, well, not so young. I mean, obviously, David's 33, but they don't want someone who's on a roll, who's got plenty of ambition, who's fighting well at the moment and very strong. They want to go a different route and get a name that's a past name that's got a bit of pedigree, but from the past.
Carl, what did you make of Conor's performance and stoppage win against Chris Algieri?
I think he did very well. I mean, hell of a shot to finish it. I mean, I like Conor. I mean, obviously all this stuff going on and what's being said and what isn't being said. I like Conor. I mean, he's a good lad. He's a good fighter. He's the most improved fighter I know. I mean, the way he's improved over the years has been fantastic. I mean, massive credit to Tony Sims as well. But he isn't ready for David. He isn't, you know what I mean? He won't beat David, in my opinion. And let's be honest, I'd rather him say that than obviously go saying that David's not a big enough name. It wouldn't sell tickets and this and that. I mean, let's just be truthful about the matter.
Away from David, moving on to a couple of your other charges. Ryland Charlton, how's he doing?
Yeah, no, I never ended up working with Ryland. No, we only had him for a week. He didn't work out. He was missing home too much. So, yeah, I trained him for a week and unfortunately didn't work out. He went back home and and went back to his old trainer. He was missing home too much. He didn't like being in Newark, away from his family and that. And yeah, so he went back. So no, it didn't work out with Ryland, unfortunately.
That's fair enough. Dick Spellman?
Yeah, Deck's coming back. He's going to be moving up to cruiserweight. I decided it was time for him to change trainers. I'm not going to be training him no more. I'm still going to manage Deck and obviously promote him as well. But no, we decided for him to move trainers. He's gone to Alan Oster up in Leeds there. Al Oster up in Leeds. He's enjoying it. He's looking good. He's got a new lease of life. He's going to be moving up to cruiserweight. He fancies to go at the big cruiserweight. So let's just see. He's boxing March the 5th on my show in Newark.
What is going to be the plan for Dick? Because when you look at that domestic cruiserweight scene, you know, if he can get a few wins under his belt, there's so many great names in there who he could maybe fancy himself to share the ring with. What is the plan for him to edge him towards those names?
Yeah, I mean, let's get him a couple of wins. Let's see how he does at cruiserweight. I think he'll do all right. I think he'll shock people, to be honest. Because he's one of them, Deck. He was too big for light heavyweight and not quite big enough for cruiserweight. He's in that category where there needs to be one put in the middle. Like I said before, I mean, I think the gap's way too big between light heavyweight and cruiserweight. They should have kept the old cruiserweight as it was and put a super cruiserweight in at 14-4. But unfortunately, he's not really in that category. So he's going to be boxing at cruiser. He's going to actually be coming in around 14-4. So he's not going to be giving no size away as such. So we'll see. But no, I think he'll do a lot better than people think. It'll be interesting to see how he does do because he can punch a bit, Deck, as well. So yeah, it's just see. I'm excited about the future with Deck.
And Sam Bowen, what is going to be happening with Sam?
Yeah, it's not looking good for Sam. I think he's going to call it a day. Unfortunately, yeah, I'm a bit disappointed, a bit sad to be honest, because no one ever saw the best of Sam. I'd like to have seen him move up to lightweight and have an opportunity there, but it never came. And obviously with the pandemic and no activity, I think he's just decided to call it a day, which is a big shame because, like I said, I really think he would have done something in the lightweight division.
I mean, was there any plan for Sam to return through the pandemic? I'm listening to this now. You know, it is sad to hear because he had a bright future ahead of him. So, was he ever discussed to get out? What was the plan that he wanted?
Yeah, well, the plan obviously he got beat by Kakache. We're not going to go into it too much. He really struggled with the weight. Things didn't work out in that fight. He well underperformed. So obviously after that we sat and talked about it, and we said that the best thing for you to do is move up to lightweight. So I was going to move him up to lightweight. Obviously COVID hit, and there was putting shows on behind closed doors, Frank Warren, but he never once gave Sam an opportunity. He never once offered us anything. And as the times went by the time went by, he sort of like lost interest. He just didn't think no one was bothered. And yeah, I think he just decided to call it a day now.
Well, I do wish Sam the best with what is next with his life and his career. Just away from that, though, a few left to touch on. Away from your gym, just get your thoughts. You know, we saw Mr. Eddie Hearn mention a potential fight between Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora. Carl, I just want to get your thoughts as someone who's been involved in the sport for so long. It's had a mixed reaction. Everybody knows of the tough and the brutal fights Derek's had throughout his career, and that's what people have looked at going into a fight with Deontay Wilder, the man who many consider to be the hardest puncher in the sport. What are your thoughts? Would you have any interest in seeing Deontay versus Derek?
I wouldn't really. I mean, watching Derek's last performance, I'd like him to call it a day. I mean, too brave, too tough, taking far too many punches now. But obviously, he's his own man. He knows best what he thinks he does. I mean, sometimes a fighter's the last person to know. You need to be told. But it's a fight that I'm not really interested in. I mean, Deontay Wilder's a big puncher. He's coming off, he's coming off a few fights against Tyson Fury. Good fights, dramatic fights. But I won't be interested in that fight myself.
Away from that, two fights which are coming up, which have been announced. Firstly, Amir Khan and Cal Brook. It may be a few years later than what people have hoped, but Feb 19th, they do share the ring. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited about the fight. I mean, obviously, people think it should have happened years ago, which it probably should have done, but we're finally seeing it. There's a lot of animosity there. It's a big fight. I mean, it's sold out in minutes. And it's an interesting fight. I mean, will Amir's speed be too much for Cal? Will Cal it too hard for Amir? We'll all see. But February the 19th is going to be a big night.
Who do you edge towards?
You know what? I'm a bit torn, to be honest with you. I do think Khan's a lot faster, but he's getting on a bit himself now, isn't he? He's getting good preparation. He's getting good sparring up there with obviously Crawford and the team. But Cal punches hard, and obviously we all know that Amir goes down. So I'm a little bit torn, to be honest with you. I ain't made my mind up. I'll have to probably look into it a little bit more before I give a prediction.
Away from that one, you've also got Chris Eubank Jr. and Liam Williams. Carl, again, your take?
Another good fight, very good fight. Yeah, I mean, from what you see of Chris Eubank, he always just seems to do enough to beat who's in front of him. I think when the going gets tough, he has got the fire in his belly to dig deep. And I think you will see the best of Chris Eubank when that happens. But Liam Williams is a very good fighter. I think he's naturally a little bit bigger than Chris Eubank. So it will be an interesting one. But being in Wales could be a big plus factor for Liam Williams. But again, it's another tough one to pick. I mean, I'm sat on the fence again. It's another tough one to pick. So, yeah, but I'd probably edge towards Eubank.
Right, Carl, we'll leave it there now. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. It's been a pleasure to catch up with you once again. I'm hopeful to see you in person soon, whether it be a press conference, a show, whatever it may be. Thank you for speaking to me in Boxing Social.
Thank you, Andy. Top man.